The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky, and now we're here to recap what other teams did at the winter meetings this week. And
right.
It was kind of a slow start. Like, remember last year, stuff happened every single day, where Monday was just a lot of rumors.
Yeah, it was definitely slower. And this is the last night of them in Nashville, right?
Well, they ended today.
Okay.
They already ended. They had the Rule 5 draft, and then I think it was over. Not much happens on Thursday. Really, the only thing on Monday that happened was the Fox trade between the Reds and the Dodgers regarding Aroldis Chapman.
Right.
That then turns out Chapman has a domestic abuse investigation going on.
Dodgers
After
didn't want to take it on, I
he,
guess.
He choked his girlfriend, shot his gun 8 times, punched his car window, injured his knuckle.
That was only like a month ago, too. It happened like in October.
And did you know that the Reds, when the Red Sox were trying to trade for Chapman, they broke off talks when they found out about that, and that's why they traded for Craig Kimbrell.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now, you wonder if the MLB is going to suspend Chapman, except at this point, he doesn't have much trade value until there's a decision made.
Right, and that's going to be interesting. The trade value is low, and it could be low for a while until we figure out what happens.
And the thing is, it's 1 year, so there's no point in trading for him when he could get suspended, for 25 games or something.
Right.
So, I mean, at this point, the Reds, and now we know why the Reds were in such a hurry to deal Aroldis Chapman. They wanted to get rid of him. They wanted
I think
before,
so.
Yeah, before teams had a chance to, before this came out, and then Yahoo Sports reported, was the first to report it, and yeah, it hasn't been good for the Reds. They haven't been able to do very much of what they wanted to do because, they wanted to move Chapman so they could get on to maybe potentially trading Todd Frazier to get back a tremendous amount of young talent.
Which they would if they would trade.
They would, yeah. I've read they talked to the Indians, the White Sox, and the Royals.
And of course, he started off 2015 on fire. He was on fire.
He did.
He wasn't as good in the second half, but he was one of the best hitters in baseball that first half. And
yeah, he hit 35 home runs on the year, and obviously talks with the White Sox are now over since they traded for Brett Lawrie.
Right, and a former Red and now the biggest free agent pitching guy left on the market is Johnny Cueto.
Right.
And we'll see where he ends up. He just won a World Series, so that could boost him up a little bit.
Right. The Dodgers are a team that needs to make a splash. They've lost Greinke. The Chapman trade fell through. They elected not to try to sign Lester, Scherzer, or Shields last year. That backfired. They did not re-sign Greinke. They have a hole for a big pitcher, and that's why they need to sign Cueto. And speaking of Zach Greinke, he signed with the Diamondbacks, who have had a really good offseason so far. They signed Greinke to a 6-year, $206.5 million deal. He's going to be averaging about $34 to $35 million a year over the course of the deal. And then,
which I think is the most ever, isn't it?
That's the highest average annual salary ever.
Yeah.
And then they traded a tremendous amount of talent for Shelby Miller,
including the overall #1 pick.
Yeah, I knew they were going to have to trade someone like Ender Inciarte or David Peralta. Where Inciarte batted over 300, played good defense,
they have a good
walks
offense,
a lot. Yeah, they have a really underrated and good offense, which that was a good piece to include. And then Aaron Blair, the power right-handed pitcher, except I was stunned that they would include Dansby Swanson, who's the #1 overall pick in last year's draft.
Right.
I don't think that Shelby Miller was worth giving him up.
Yeah, and I don't follow the other prospects in baseball too much besides the Cubs and maybe a little bit of the White Sox, but I've heard of Dansby Swanson. Everyone's heard of him. He's the #1 pick. He's got kind of a cool name too, and he's the main guy. And now Atlanta.
And right now, this trade makes Atlanta look even smarter for trading Andrelton Simmons.
Oh yeah,
to the Angels
for sure. And it's very interesting. And the Diamondbacks also had very young pitching, and they had very good pitching. And now you add a couple veterans like Miller and Greinke. You add them into the rotation along with their young guys that can take over after these guys.
3 years of control over Shelby Miller, and they're reportedly reportedly they're listed as the front runners for Mike Leake because he's.
Where'd they get all this money from?
They signed a big TV deal, the $1.5 billion deal over 10 or 20 years. I don't remember the number.
I didn't know that.
They're the front runners for Mike Leake because he's from Arizona and wants to pitch at home, and he said he's willing to take less money to sign.
Oh well, that will take the Cubs out of any Mike Leake discussion.
I don't think they were going to sign Mike after they signed John Lackey. That pretty much eliminated them from signing someone like him,
right,
or even probably a big name pitcher. And if the Diamondbacks were to sign Mike Leake, they'd have a rotation featuring Zach Greinke, Shelby Miller, Patrick Corbin, and Mike Leake, and then whoever wins the fifth spot.
Robbie Ray, maybe.
Robbie Ray or Ruby De La Rosa or Archie Bradley.
I mean, there's a lot of good things that can happen with Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona's in a very good spot. They were able to keep A.J. Pollock. They still have Paul Goldschmidt.
It's important for them to not let the Giants get any better and to not let the Dodgers get any better.
Right. That's why I think they should sign Leake because the Giants want to re-sign him.
Right, and if the Giants re-sign him, and the Giants also have a pretty good offense and a pretty good pitching staff when healthy, including like Matt Cain, who hasn't really been good.
See,
in a couple
I
years.
think Matt Cain's just on a downfall because his arm. He just threw too many innings, because he was throwing 200 innings a year from his first year, and I think he's lost his velocity. He just isn't as good as he used to be, except they still have Madison Bumgarner. So, I mean, he's one of the best left-handers in the game, except, I mean, the Diamondbacks, I mean, really, if you're the Braves, I remember they said they probably weren't going to trade Shelby Miller, and then it was reported by the Sun-Times that the Cubs had traded Javier Baez for Shelby Miller, and it turned out that wasn't the case. The Cubs and the Braves never really got too deep into negotiations, it was even reported
after the Braves wanted Chris Bryant.
Yeah, it was reported that as the negotiations were going on, the price went up, and they wanted Chris Bryant, and that's when the Cubs are just kind of like, okay,
for Shelby Miller,
this
I'll
isn't
pass.
happening. I wouldn't even trade Chris Bryant for a Jose Fernandez.
No, I wouldn't either. Not at this point,
or even Matt Harvey.
No way.
No, not even close. And so, I mean, and then when the Braves open up talks with the Diamondbacks. Now, I think the Braves are going to win this deal. I mean, they already got they're probably their franchise shortstop after trading Simmons. They got Dansby Swanson. Aaron Blair's a good power righty. He could get into the rotation or maybe be a power arm out of the bullpen. And then they got really good outfielder in Ender Inciarte.
Yeah, they do.
And
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and with Shelby Miller, he did lead the MLB in losses with 17 last year. That's just wins and losses mean nothing. I mean, he had a 3.02 ERA, and he was just getting no run support.
Mm-hmm.
And he struck out 173 batters, so that's about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He was walking a little too many guys. I think he was around 3 walks per 9 innings. So that's kind of a little concerning. Was the strikeout to walk ratio? Except he's the kind of guy. He's such a young pitcher. He could be getting better. I mean, he might not have even had his best season yet. I mean, he's still. I think last year was the first year he pitched 200 innings.
Yeah.
So maybe he, obviously his arm's getting stronger. Maybe he'll have one of his strikeout pitches working better and could get closer to 200 strikeouts. Except, I mean, he had a really good year. He's a really good pitcher. I just think the Diamondbacks maybe overpaid a little just because of Swanson in that deal. And it was there's been a lot of reports at the winter meetings that the teams were talking about Jose Fernandez, and I read one anonymous executive said that what the Diamondbacks gave to the Braves wouldn't have come close to getting a Fernandez deal done, which pretty much means he wasn't getting traded.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. And there was another trade too that we forgot to talk about up to this point was Neil Walker being shipped out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, going to the Mets, and I was really hoping that the Braves wouldn't trade him. Just because I was like, well, the Pirates won't be able to re-sign him, so maybe he'll just leave as a free agent and the Pirates will get worse.
Yeah.
Except then they got Jonathan Neese. They've got a really good pitching coach.
I don't know. I don't really like what the Pirates did here, and I'll tell you why.
I think it's because they have 3 years of control over Jonathan Neese, where Walker was a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, Neil Walker is a pretty darn good player, a pretty good second baseman, hits for power. He's been in Pittsburgh 4 or 5 seasons probably. maybe even a little more. And just to get a back of the rotation guy like Jonathan Neese,
See, I
don't see it.
The Pirates have had an opening for a pitcher because Burnett retired and Jay Happ left as a free agent.
Right.
I think that because they had 3 years of control over Jonathan Neese, and their pitching coach is really good. Him and Chris Bosio are regarded as two of the best in the game. I mean, this guy helped Jay Happ get $36 million in the offseason.
Yeah, that was a little ridiculous, but yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
So I really think that Jonathan Neese is going to have one of the better seasons of his career, just because when you go to a pitching guru like Chris Bosio or Pittsburgh's pitching coach, I think maybe he could have an even better season because he was really good for the Pirates or for the Mets last year. So I think that this is the Pirates got a really good end of the deal. Obviously, they have to fill second base, except Neil Walker was going to leave as a free agent anyways.
Yeah, that's true. He was probably going to leave anyway, and now they're going to rely on Jung Ho Gung, right?
Well, he's a shortstop, so maybe they'll try to plug in a Jordy Mercer.
Okay.
Maybe they'll try to plug in a Jordy Mercer. Or
I know he can play second, though, right?
Yeah, he can, except maybe they'll have him play second and have Mercer play short. I think that's kind of what they're looking at right now. And so one interesting thing, though, about the winter meetings is that last year, all the big-name pitchers were signing late in the offseason, where all the big bats like Pablo Sandoval, Hanley Ramirez, those guys signed before the winter meetings. Those bats were going off the board quick last year, and they were flying by.
Yeah.
And where Lester signed at the winter meetings, Scherzer signed in January, Shields signed shortly before spring training. The pitching market never picked up. Where this year, the pitching market was one that was flying by, and this year the offensive market, the position players market, hasn't really made much progress. Hayward's probably going to be the first one to sign. He's unsigned. Justin Upton and Yoenis Cespedes are still unsigned.
Alex Gordon's
unsigned.
Our own Dexter Fowler. Where's he going to end up?
Dexter Fowler's still unsigned. And Chris Davis, who it's reported the Orioles offered him a 7-year, $168 million deal, and then they actually pulled that back. I don't think that would have gotten it done. There's rumors that the Cardinals may look at Davis if they lose out on Hayward.
I feel like he could do some damage with St. Louis.
Oh, probably. I mean, I'm sure he will.
Bit.
Yeah, except he'll come at a big price, So the position players market is not picked up. It's just kind of flip-flopped this year.
True.
So
it definitely has.
Anyways, we'll discuss more from the winter meetings. Maybe get a little into hockey and basketball in our next segment. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com.
The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.